Miss Maggie Andriani.
You nailed it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you for joining us on Heroic Hospitality. Super awesome to have you on the show. We became friendly when you guys came to town with Sensatia, which I can't wait to learn more about. I've been to the show twice. I can't get enough of it. I can't wait to go again and bring more of our team. I know this is your kind of like unofficial place to hang out after you're done.
We're trying to make it official. This is the official after party.
We could easily make it official. But thank you so much for what you're bringing to Denver. And I just am speechless on what you guys are able to create, sincerely. And Heroic Hospitality, this podcast, is for entrepreneurs, anyone that has any connection with the hospitality business, and nightlife enthusiasts. So this is obviously the nightlife enthusiast part.
Yes.
And the entrepreneurial spirit as well, because you have to get these things done. And I could only imagine how much time and money it takes and creative financing to make sure everybody can get paid and still offer a fair ticket. I mean, it just seems so mind-boggling to me how you can do this night after night. So welcome to the show, Miss Maggie Andriani.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
So the show is called Sensatia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about it, and then I'd love to hear just a little bit more about the parent company and how long all this has kind of been around and where y'all are from.
Yeah, cool. So it's Sensatia Cabaret. A lot of people don't know what a cabaret is, or they get confused by the term cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, we're a collection of musicians, dancers, and circus artists of all kinds. And we are big on collaborating and coming together to create these acts that have this really amazing, energetic flow throughout the show. So we combine aerial, live music, singing, dancing, amazing lighting, fire, which tends to be everyone's favorite.
Yeah, all of the senses.
Yeah. And we try and be pretty immersive with it. So we will have acts that enter from coming through the crowd, people coming on and off stage. So it is kind of hard to put into words. Like, I never know, I'm like, where to begin?
You know why I know it's hard to put into words? You know, I was with some of your folks on the corner of 29th Street in Larimer.
Uh-huh.
And Orange Peel was on his stilts. Beautiful women and men were trying to support Sensatia. And it was almost like people had this blank face. And I'm like, how does a person on stilts towering above you not bring a smile to your face? It must be so hard to convey that message.
I think people just get caught off guard, especially when you circus is already such a unique thing that is such a broad term that covers so many different disciplines of circus. But then you add in the cabaret aspect, and people, I've had people say to me afterwards in the lobby, we thought this was a sex club. And I'm like, oh, no.
Pay extra for that.
All due respect to the sex clubs. Yeah, you do have to pay extra for that. Just kidding. But they don't know. And cabaret is really just about confidence and sexiness and sensuality. Mm-hmm. And we do it at a very high quality, I like to think.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I literally can't get enough. And where are y'all from?
So our company is called Quixotic. It's based in Kansas City. It started in Kansas City. We also have a show down in Miami Beach called Allure Cabaret. So our director, Anthony, is from Kansas City, as well as our musical director, Shane, as well as me. So it's kind of cool because I don't think people think of Kansas City as a hub for arts or let alone circus, but we did kind of create this little name for ourselves in Kansas City. So some of us are born and raised in Kansas City, and others have moved from LA, New York, all around the world, Canada even, to come and join our company in Kansas City.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how did you choose Denver? And what did that process look like? Because you took over an old brewery that I'm assuming they were trying to sell or in limbo. What did that process look like for you, and why did you choose Denver?
Yeah, so the company's always had a really strong connection to Denver and Colorado in general. People have family out here. I've personally, growing up, always took vacations out to Denver and Colorado with my family. And
how far a drive is it?
It's 8.5 hours, 9 with stops.
But it's a boring drive, right?
It's easy, but it's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt. I was
No,
just like,
not my
'cause if
favorite
you have,
drive.
yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think Anthony's always wanted to bring something out to Denver. He's seen the arts community out here, and then we used to do a lot of festivals that happened around Colorado. Like I'm trying to think, like Arise, Sonic Bloom, yeah. Quixotic kind of started as this arts collective that would go to festivals, and then over the years, it's really transformed and meshed into doing corporate work, and now cabarets, like, you know, a couple different cabarets being opened. So it's been an interesting journey. And yeah, so we work with a company called NPU, Non Plus Ultra. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. Dave is the owner. He's super sweet. He came to see our show in Kansas City. Basically, what NPU does is they take over leases of buildings that I guess can't complete their lease, and NPU tries to put something experiential into that building. So we are technically just finishing out the lease at the Arch, which goes through the end of the year. Could be longer, maybe.
That's the whole point. We need this to go longer.
Yeah, I mean, we
love you guys. We love you and what you bring to Denver.
Thank you
so much. And more of Denver needs to see what y'all are up to.
Yeah.
Because Denver doesn't offer anything before you got here with what you're doing. And so it's just really important that we do all of our bests. And so if you've been to the show, or an enthusiast like me that just wants to support and continue to go and bring everyone I know, literally everyone I know, to these shows, that we get the word out. And it's hard to talk about what y'all are up to because there's nothing really like it.
Yeah.
You described it, but I mean, it's breathtaking, truly.
It's still, I do feel like my description lacks what it is altogether. People do tend to say once they come to the show, they're like, okay, like I saw the pictures, I saw the description, I did not know it was going to be this.
Which, when they say that, their eyes are wide and their jaw is open.
Yeah. Yep. 3 drinks deep after the show.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you met someone. They specialized in finding the gap between a leasee and a leaseor in different areas of the country. So what does that partnership look like? So if you want to continue that'd be great.
Yeah. So NPU, there were certain aspects of the deal where I know Quixotic built the stage. I mean, it was literally, when I showed up, our crew had already been out here like since the beginning of May, setting up the theater, and it reminded me of a barn. It was empty, it was dusty, but they literally built the inside from the ground up. Just our crew of like, I think it was like 8 to 10 people, and then NPU had some people come, and it was amazing to watch it transform. NPU took care of the bar. Anthony did a really great job of designing our lobby with the furniture and sort of like that aesthetic. He's very like intentional about the aesthetic of things. So,
I can't wait to meet Anthony at some point. He's been traveling since we got connected.
Yeah, he hasn't been back since the show opened. There's just so many other things going on with our company too. We're just having like a huge moment of expansion, which I think is really exciting, but it means that everyone in the company has to really step up and wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah. And these hats aren't always monetized in the way that we need to be and recognized. And I could imagine that the type of people you surround yourself with in your industry, with what you're bringing to Denver, they're all very creative and would do this if they didn't have to pay for groceries.
Yeah.
And they're passionate. Can you maybe describe some of the individuals that you work with and like why you love to surround yourself with these types of folks?
Yeah. I mean,
I almost get teary just thinking about it because I know how passionate they are.
Yeah. No, me too.
And just lovely and hardworking and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the really unique thing that I just absolutely love about my job. Like, I love what I do, like, as an aerialist and a dancer, but I think it's really unique to, like, actually genuinely love every single person that you work with and recognize that each person is very special and has different skills and talents and strengths. And I know people say this and it can be stereotypical, but it really does feel like a family. We are all there for each other. We hang out after the show. I mean, and the level of talent in those friends is
Yeah.
so insane. I mean, I immediately think of like the musicians. Shane and Ben are our violinist and cellist, and they just absolutely shred it. Every
do.
show, they never miss a beat. And I think sometimes that sort of flies under the radar for me because it's like just so normal. But then it comes back to me, and I remember like, wow, I am working with world-class people who are not only like at the top of their game of what they do, but they are so humble and kind.
Yeah.
And I feel so lucky for that. And any one of our performers comes out and talks to people in the lobby after the show. We make friends with people.
It's true.
We make
I
connections.
could attest to that.
Yeah.
And seeing you guys at Beacon on last Saturday night, y'all are just so close. And how could you not be, right? Backstage, costume changes, all of the practice it takes, traveling around the country. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that want to find a family like you're describing. How would someone like that go about finding this type of community? Because that doesn't exist. Like I said before, Denver doesn't have something like this until you brought it. So just want to say thanks again for that.
Thank you.
Of course. It's just so special to have you on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there was if there was a nugget you can offer an aspiring aerialist or fire performer or cellist, violinist, or anybody that aspires to, acquire a family like you're describing, how would they go about that?
I would say to always be authentic. Don't afraid to maybe even be a little bit weird.
Weird goes a long way.
It does. It makes you unique. And even if you're not like an amazing musician or performer, I would still say for anyone who considers themselves to work like a regular job, there are still other roles that you can get involved with creatively with these collectives and companies. Just being a helping hand is always great, and just having supportive people around. I mean, we have
now just really quick, the helping hand part. Now, in the restaurant industry, it's working for free is what that's called. and you learn like how to do something because you want to learn it so bad, and restaurants in general can't afford to pay you if you don't have a skill set, right? And so you go and you just try and add value and then in the best way that you can. And it sounds ludicrous, and it is in this day and age, but back 20 years ago when I was coming up, 15 years ago when 30 years ago when I was coming up in the industry, it was very common that you would find people that would stay months on end just to learn from a specific chef or a specific maitre d'. And that was a big time commitment, and times have changed totally. Yeah. But so that's why I wanted to hone in on what you said there. Is there something that you can, if you're aspiring to do something great, lend a service, even though they might not have the skill set?
Well, when I say a helping hand, I try and be a big proponent of getting paid your worth.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are certain things in the performing world that are apprenticeships where you get paid very little or not at all. But I think when I say helping hand, I really mean we have people who work their regular job and then they come and they work crew for us, and they're still getting paid, or they're just helping with just random odds and ends, and it's still work. They're still a part of the family. They're still a part of the crew. So I do feel like everyone gets treated with value because we all have to buy our groceries, right? Especially in this day and age. So yeah, that's what I mean by that.
That's great. It's great. And I just, with my experience and with the people that I talk to often in this industry, there's a monetary conversation that always needs to happen, of course. But there's also this unknown aspect of, if you offer something, you get something in return. And I know the other night when I wasn't passing out flyers, but I saw everybody passing out flyers. And I will give a big shout out to Orange Peel, who connected us
Yes.
With email, even though I had already seen the show, but connected us. And, he was out there just volunteering, donating his time, not because for any other reason, but he wants you to succeed. And one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on here as fast as possible is because Denver needs you here. How can we support you with this journey of yours and all of your team?
Man, that is a big, wonderful question.
It's a big, wonderful question.
Yeah. I think people, in my opinion, tend to trust word of mouth more than any marketing because they want to see that their friend went to something and they want to see that clip on their Instagram story and they want to feel like people want to feel like they found it themselves and it wasn't being like spoon fed to them by like some, ad that you see on Facebook like 60 times and you're like, oh my God, I get it.
Yeah.
So I think the more people just, if you genuinely do have a good time at the show, which I think most people do.
100%. Yeah, there's not a question.
Just posting about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Tagging us, all of that goes a really long way.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. And going back to like what it takes to actually put one of these shows on, I could only imagine how much money and bandwidth and time it takes. And so what is the current price of like a general ticket right now?
What I think is cool is that, so we have 2 tiers of tickets, like a general 2 tiers. VIP, which is the tables closest to the stage. I would say they get the most interaction with the performers. And then they also get a tableside service from the bar. And then we have our mezzanine seats. And what's cool is that I think the lowest ticket price is somewhere around $35, which continues to be really accessible. And I don't know if you've ever like seen other circus shows, but I mean, the cheapest seats tend to be around $100, which is kind of what our most expensive seats are.
Yeah.
So
it's a very, very fair price. And
I think so.
It is a great place and an opportunity to get to know somebody if you're on a first date or even second date, because it is very interactive. And if you really enjoy those types of performances, and the person next to you enjoys it even more than you, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like, he's the one or she's the one.
Right. Yeah. I've talked to couples after the show who have been like, oh yeah, this is our second date. Like he just bought these tickets and didn't tell me what it was. And I'm like, that's a good man.
On him.
Yeah, that is a good date.
Yes. And it's funny because when we were on the corner the other night, I keep saying that because it just happened. I think it was Friday night. That's what I kept saying to people. I'm like, bring her on a date, bring him on a date. Like you guys have to experience this together because there is a bond that you live with for the week and weeks following because do you remember? It's funny. I don't know if this is a huge amount of respect, but for some reason, every time I remember the violinist and the cellist when they were playing, I grew up in a much different time than you did. I was a little older. But there's this movie called Deliverance, which is way gnarly. Like, it's not. But there was this scene in the movie called The Dueling Banjos. And artistically and like musically, it just resonated with me. And then when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, this is so. So I went back in my own childhood and had this memory of this movie that was, it was great. Burt Reynolds was in it. It was great. But it was still, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart, but there is a scene in there called The Dueling Banjos. So every time I see the show, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this part just for my own like weird
the dueling banjos
quirkiness. Yeah. And again, that's met with 100% respect.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think everyone has a certain part of the show that like super resonates with them. Yeah. So that's cool to hear yours.
Yeah. That resonated with me for sure.
Yeah.
And also the story resonated with me for sure.
Okay, good.
At the beginning of Sensatia, the beginning was my favorite part of the story because it definitely unfolded what was about to come. And there was a lot of mystique around it. There's also some like really fun, I'm just reliving it a little bit, really fun surprises that we won't give away.
Yes.
Love
I think
the
I know
surprises.
the one you're talking about.
Yeah. His name starts with an S.
Yeah.
That's right.
The only clue we're going to give.
That's how
I always peek through the curtains and watch that part every single time because I love watching audience faces during
Oh my
that
God,
part.
it's the best.
Yeah.
It is the best.
It's amazing.
It is the best. So there is, when I say fair amount, there is a very large amount of mystique that surrounds Sensatia and all the shows that you put on throughout the course of the year and multiple years. What is it like? What does it look like to actually go through the process of becoming an expert at some of these like amazing things, aerialist or a fire spinner or contortionist, or like what are some of these like paths and journeys that you can maybe identify for some aspiring folks to that want to make this their life?
Sure. I mean, everyone in our company has a very different and interesting story of how they got to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which I think is so neat to talk to everyone individually about it. Me personally, I was training as a classical ballet dancer from the age of 4. I grew up doing classical ballet. My degree is in classical ballet. I thought that's what I was going to do. I had grown up seeing quixotic shows in Kansas City, actually, which I also think is really cool. It's kind of like serendipitous now to be here, helping to head up the Denver crew. But what happened for me was I had a ballet job lined up after college.
Mm-hmm.
It was verbally confirmed with the director. I was going to move to a different city in the South, and I was not getting any contract in the email or in my email. So I contacted them and they said, "Oh, we actually don't have a job for you. Sorry." And this was like 3 days before graduation. So I was devastated.
Devastating. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have a job. I didn't know where I was going to go after school. I had worked with Anthony, our director, before on one gig for Quixotic. And I called him up. I was like, "Hey, I'm actually moving back to Kansas City. Like, if you need anyone." And I started doing aerial just for fun, just kind of like as cross training. I thought maybe I would still get back out there and be a ballet dancer and re-audition, but I was having way too much fun with all of these gigs that we were doing across the country. And I am a self-taught aerialist, but when I say that I'm self-taught, I mean that Quixotic gave me the space and the freedom to explore and create, which is so special and so sacred to me because they gave me that space and have allowed me to flourish. And, all of our company members have come in. Most have been classical ballet dancers like me, looking for a little bit more freedom and liberation in their art. And we teach them fire, aerial if they want, vertical wall dancing where you dance on walls outside. So it's a lot of learning and sharing in order to get where we are today.
And in order for you to even be in that position, it sounds like you had a relationship with Anthony at the beginning, that someone that you could actually go back to, and you identified him as someone that you aspired to be around, right? And in addition to that, you were willing to pivot and like try something a little different if you're classically trained ballerina, right? But now you are seeing this aerialist thing and like, I'm going to try that too. And so being pigeonholed doesn't sound like something that's in the personalities of everybody that you surround yourself with, because you have to wear a lot of different hats.
Right. And I remember the first time seeing aerial, it was one of our senior aerialists. Her name is Megan, and she is now down in the show in Miami. And I was just a dancer at the time. I could not even do one pull-up. And I try and keep that feeling of what I saw when I watched her with me when I start to get hard on myself, like, oh, that show wasn't like my best or whatever. But the first time you see someone take off in the air is so magical.
Oh my gosh.
They're like a fairy. And so I try and keep that with me because that was really inspiring to see her do that. And now to know that I can do that in my own way, in my own style too. Yeah. It just makes me happy. It brings me happiness.
So I've sat both on the floor in the VIP section and I've sat on the mezzanine. I kind of like the mezzanine because you can actually, you're almost eye level with you now that I know you, with you, because you're awesome. And I remember seeing you doing exactly what you're talking about. So there is no bad seat in the house.
There really isn't.
You just got to go.
Yep.
Wow. Talking about all of these unique individuals and how fun and alive they are every time I have a conversation with somebody from Sensatia. I always wonder, like, what give me a funny story. I need a funny story.
I wish that I could take you backstage with us because
you can, by the way, I'm right here.
You want the BTS tour? Yeah. We'll give it to you. We are professionals at what we do. We are safe with everything that we do with the fire and aerial. Mm-hmm. But if we are backstage, we are absolutely messing around, having the best time of our lives. We are, okay. I mean, it's like we're these like half naked performers and we are just being absolute goofballs backstage. Yeah. One standout moment for me, there are so many, but one recent moment for me was our puller and our rigger, Jason, who pulls us up in the air.
Right. And you don't see that person. He's behind the scenes, right? Jason.
He actually is out. You can see him pulling from the left side of the house. Cool. But he goes by Rodrigo in the show. Everyone has an alternate name, which is also fun, even like our crew. But I was playing odds with him backstage. Have you ever played odds before?
No, please tell.
Okay, so you say odds are, and then you give like a dare. And then the other person can set the limit, 1 to 10, 1 to 20. And basically you count down and you say 3, 2, 1. And if you say the same number, then that person has to do the dare.
Okay.
If you say two numbers that add up to the maximum number, then the person who said odds are has to do the dare.
Okay.
So I said, odds are you climb under the stage and grab Art's foot. And Art is one of our performers' boyfriends who was at the show, and he had one of those front tables.
Oh, shit.
So actually, it was Jason who gave the odds are, and he said 1 to 20. And I said, all right, sure. And we counted down 3, 2, 1. And I think I said 7, and he said 13. So he had to go climb under the stage. He was like, I'm going to do it right when the show ends. Right when the curtain closes, that final moment, he was going to go climb under the stage. So I left after the show ended. I went back to the dressing room. I had totally forgotten about it. So I leave the dressing room. He's calling my name. I come out and his pants are like somehow wet and dirty. He's sweaty. Like one of his suspenders is broken. And he was like, I tried to get to him. I just couldn't get to him in time. He had crawled under our whole stage, which is probably about like 3 feet off the ground. He'd crawled under the whole stage to try and get to this guy's foot in time, to no avail. So he just crawled out sweaty, broken, wet. And we play odds all the time backstage. And that is definitely a winner.
If that mental picture... That's the mental picture. That's why it was the winner. That's awesome. It's funny.
He committed.
He had full commitment. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So one thing that I would love for the listeners to have a better understanding of is just what it takes. Like, what does a night look like for you? How many people are in the show? I mean, a $35 ticket on the low end and then a $100 ticket on the high end, which is still very reasonable and definitely worth the investment in your future. I promise you that, because you do have these memories that last with you, and it does create a bond with the people that you go there with, and you have some sort of connection, of remember this time in this place. It's one of those types of shows. And so, so how many people put it on, and what does this look like in the course of one night for you? Like, describe a Saturday night through your lens.
Yeah. So, I mean, we obviously have a bar staff of around, 8 people, I would say, give or take a couple, just depending on the night. And then cast and crew wise, I think we have about 20 total. Mm-hmm. So it's a little on the smaller end, but as you may have noticed in the show, we all pop up in different places wearing different costumes. No one's really like a one-trick pony. Yeah. Which I also think makes us unique from other circus shows. Is normally if you have a specialty act, you come in, you do your act, and then you leave. And we are just busting the whole show. We
I
are
know.
quick changing, running in and out. So I mean, we come in, our stage manager comes in like 5 hours before the show, 4 or 5 hours before the show. And then the aerialists come in around that time or a little bit later. We always aerial test before every show, which means we check our apparatus, we hang it up, we test the tricks that we want to test, whatever it is. And then the musicians come in and the musicians sound check. And this is still like a good 3 hours before the show starts.
Yeah.
Then everyone goes backstage. We do makeup. People are warming up. We always meet. We call it circle. We meet for circle like 5 minutes before the show starts. We all just like kind of get connected, kind of get our energy to align for the show. We talk about any changes that are going to happen. And then we run it and it's like clockwork. I mean, this is the 3rd or 4th season that we've run this show. And every time we've tried to make it a little bit different or make adjustments, get some fresh faces in there. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
And there's 2 shows a night.
There
or just
has
describing
been.
the Saturday.
So we have been doing double Saturdays. Currently this month, we are just doing a single show on Saturdays. But we hope to get back up to doubles again.
Good.
And yeah, so once the first show ends, our bar is closed for the after hours of that show.
Sure.
So everyone leaves, and then we even have our performers helping to reset tables in between shows. So this really is like
All hands on deck.
all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people get a snack. We tend to just lay on our yoga mats in Shavasana and pray that the second show is just as good.
Yeah.
And then the second show starts, and luckily we're all warmed up and ready to go already.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I can't even imagine what it looks like and what it feels like backstage, and that like controlled chaos that has to take place when you are doing costume changes and whatnot. And it's just, I can't express enough how much gratitude, I'll speak for the entire city of Denver, when I personally talk about Sensatia and trying to get and encourage people to open their eyes and wallets a little bit to go and experience the show. And our intention is to support you in any way we can. So you just let us know how we can do that here.
Thank you.
And just a lot of love for what you do and who you are and who you surround yourself with and all of the amazing creatives that you call family.
Yeah. And I mean, we tend to get drawn to people who are also in the creative, immersive, experiential business, which is why I think like it's been so good to like meet you and just experience Beacon, because, I think we need more experiences. This isn't like a new concept, but I do think that people like, Sensatia and Beacon, those businesses, we kind of like help take the lead on that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for helping take the lead.
Yeah. No, it's so great to be in Denver. Like we really, really love it here. And
good.
We do
Well,
hope
let's
to
keep
be here
you
a long time. Yes.
Let's
please.
keep you. Let's keep you.
Yeah.
Anything I forget? Did I forget anything? Anything you want to recognize, regarding Sensatia? Or again, typically I usually ask, how can we support you? Obviously,
I think we covered
just,
that.
Yep, we did.
Yeah. I mean, just maybe the last thing to know, maybe I said it or maybe I didn't, but currently we are running 3 shows a week, Thursday nights, Friday nights, and Saturdays.
Okay.
I believe the Thursday show's at 8 p.m., Friday's at 8:30, and then the Saturday is at 7 p.m. If we do end up adding in our late show again, it'll be Saturday at 7 and then again at 9:30.
Perfect.
And then
Great.
Beacon afterwards.
Yeah. Perfect. I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miss Maggie, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Mario.
It was really nice to get to know you and
Yeah.
what y'all are up to.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Big respect. So thank you.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Of course. Cool.